really happy to be here in Mississippi. I spent a lot of time in this part of the country, various parts of my life, but I lived in Alabama, in Lowndes County, Alabama, when I was a junior in college, and I wrote a book down there about the civil rights movement in Alabama. But and then today I got to go down to the Gulf Coast. I'm the president of Waterkeeper Alliance, which is the fastest growing national environmental group, and it was started by a group of blue-collar commercial and recreational fishermen back in the 60s to challenge the polluters for control of the Hudson River. And they were all Marines, they were combat veterans from World War II in Korea, and they were real fighters, and they started suing polluters and winning the lawsuits, and they saved the Hudson River, which is today an international model for ecosystem protection, and the miraculous resurrection of the Hudson has inspired the creation of river keepers all over the country. We have 6 river keepers in Alabama, and we have, I think, 5 or 6 in Louisiana. We have 1 here in Mississippi, which is the Turkey Creek Keeper, which is down on the near Gulfport. And actually, the Turkey Creek Keeper is here tonight, and I just want you to stand up, Derek Evans, and just wave to the crowd. A lot of what Derek is doing is trying to straighten out the mess from the big storm and the development mess, which is actually in some cases harming parts of those communities even worse than the storm did, including his community. And to me, what he's doing is exactly what environmental advocacy is about, because I have always understood this. I think more and more people after Katrina are beginning to understand this, that protecting the environment is not about protecting the fishes and the birds for their own sake, but it's recognizing that nature is the infrastructure of our communities. And that if we want to meet our obligation as a generation, as a civilization, as a nation, which is to create communities for our children that provide them with the same opportunities for dignity and enrichment and good health and prosperity as the communities that our parents gave us, we've got to start by protecting our environmental infrastructure, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the fisheries and wildlife and the public lands that enrich us, that connect us to our past, that connect us to our history, and that are the source that provide context to our communities, and that are the source ultimately of our values and our virtues and our character as a people. And I want to start off by saying this, that I have been disciplined during 23 years of environmental advocacy about being nonpartisan and bipartisan in my approach to these issues. I don't think there's any such thing as Republican children or Democratic children. I think the worst thing that could happen to the environment is if it becomes the province of a single political party. But you can't talk honestly about the environment in any context today without speaking critically of this administration. This is the worst environmental White House that we've had in American history, bar none, without any competition. If you go to NRDC's website, the Natural Resource Defense Council, which is one of the groups for which I work, you'll see listed there over 400 major environmental rollbacks that have been promoted or implemented by this White House over the past 6 years as part of a deliberate, concerted effort to eviscerate 30 years of environmental law. It's a stealth attack. The White House has used all kinds of ingenious machinations to conceal this radical agenda from the American public, including Orwellian rhetoric. When they wanted to destroy the forest, they called it the Healthy Forest Act. When they wanted to destroy the air, they called it the Clear Skies Bill. But most insidiously, they've put polluters in charge of virtually all the agencies that are supposed to be protecting the rest of us from pollution. The head of the Forest Service, Mark Ray, is a timber industry lobbyist, probably the most rapacious in American history. The head of Public Lands, Stephen Griles, is a mining industry lobbyist who believes that public lands are unconstitutional. The head of the Air Division at EPA is a utility lobbyist, Jeffrey Homestead, who's represented nothing but the worst air polluters during his entire career before entering government. The head of Superfund is a woman whose last job was teaching corporate polluters how to evade Superfund. The second in command of EPA is a Monsanto lobbyist. The New York Times reported a couple of weeks ago that the president's chief environmental advisor, Philip Cooney, who is in the White House, advising the president on the environmental impacts of every decision he makes, that his last job, he was until recently the chief lobbyist for the American Petroleum Institute. And his job over the past 6 years, as it turns out, has been combing through every single federal scientific document to remove inculpatory information about damaging statements about the oil industry and the coal industry. He suppressed 12 major studies that you and I paid for on global warming that they've just refused to release because they thought it would be damaging to these industries. So his job has been to lie to the American public. And, you know, if you go through all of the departments of government, it is the same thing. Department of Commerce, which regulates fisheries, Department of Energy, Department of Agriculture, Department of Interior, EPA, and even the relevant divisions of the Justice Department. It is the lobbyists for the worst of the worst of the worst of the companies within these industries, the bottom feeders, that are now running the agencies that are supposed to be protecting us from pollution. And you know, there's nothing wrong with having business people in government. It's a good thing if your objective is to recruit competence and expertise. But in all of these situations, these individuals have entered government, as I show in my book, have entered government service, not to serve the public interest, but rather to subvert the very laws that they're now charged with enforcing in order to enrich the president's corporate paymasters. And they have imposed enormous diminution in the quality of life of the people of this country. The problem is, you and I, most Americans, don't know about it because we have a negligent and indolent press in this country that has simply let down American democracy. And